10th of March, 18 days ago, a email was circulated. I'm being very deliberate here in terms of the wording I'm using. An email was circulated from the OCPO's office talking about the withdrawal of the instruction number 8, basically announcing withdrawal of PFMA SCM instruction number 8, which is on the application of assignment and cession of contracts resulting from procurement. The last points there about resulting from procurement, there are obviously other contracts as well, which would be possibly subject to assignment and cession. But interesting, and let's just have a quick look at what this says. Take note that the PFMA SCM instruction number 8 with regards to the application of assignment and cession of contracts resulting from procurement has been withdrawn effective the 27th of October 2022. So this is a communication which went out on the 10th of March, basically backdating a instruction to the 27th of October. As far as we can gather, at this point in time, the MFMA Circular 120 on sessions and assignment is still valid, and that has not been withdrawn. We have asked Treasury what the intention is around Circular 120, but haven't received any feedback yet on that request. Let's have a quick look then at the Instruction 08 and what it is. Now, this was effective the 1st of September. Okay, 1st of September 2022, it was effective. Something is obviously happening to cause Treasury now to withdraw this effective the 27th of October 2022. And it's really to prescribe the requirements for the application of assignment and cession of contracts resulting from procurement to institutions to which the PFMA apply. So that's in particular this one. And a similar circular then was issued for MFMA, for local government, and it really had exactly the same content, just slightly different references to MFMA as opposed to PFMA. Briefly, what that instruction said was that on the assignment aspect, now there's two dimensions to this instruction in the circular. One is on assignment and the other one is a cession. They defined differently, and we'll explain that as we go. But basically saying that there is a clause 19 in the general conditions of contract that make provision for assignment. And it says there that it is really possible for you to grant an assignment, but you need to provide prior consent to that. Now, assignment in the definition of Instruction 8 and Circular 120 is you award a contract to someone and they take that award and assign the entire responsibility for executing the contract and for receiving payment for that contract. They assign those rights to another service provider. And the reason for them not allowing that to happen any longer is it was really just counter to Section 217 of the Constitution. They were taking a process where we contract for goods or services in a competitive system, and then suddenly the company that gets the deal was not the one that participated in the competition to be awarded the contract. And what they said that it is not allowed. They did not allow that, and they said that they were in the process of reviewing the GCC. Now, this was August last year, effective the 1st of September. There is the assignment clause in the GCC, the supplier shall not assign in whole or in part its obligations to perform under the contract except with the purchaser's prior written consent. That's the standard clause that exists in the GCC. Now, cession is different. Cession says that you have awarded the deal to a supplier. That supplier will continue to execute the contract and fulfill the conditions of the contract, but they cede the payment to a third party. So they're not assigning the responsibilities to execute the project to someone else. They will continue to do the work, but they say, please rather pay this third party instead of ourselves. And that is what National Treasury is saying is cession. Now, one of the big difficulties we've got in the industry is many people understand cession to be the same thing as assignment. This instruction and circular says that they clearly are different. The cession part of the instruction in the circular said the following: cessions must only be applicable to the transfer of rights to payment for services rendered by a service provider to an FSP or state institution. An FSP or a state institution. Now, I'm going to ask Komotso if she wouldn't mind coming in now. I'm just going to quickly ensure that she can speak. And Komotso, I don't know, welcome. Glad to see that you are online. Thank you for agreeing to join us this morning. Perhaps you could just give us some perspectives from your side on what this particular statement in both the instruction and in the circular meant. Komotso, I hope you can hear us. There, go ahead. I can see you've unmuted now.
Loud and clear, Sean. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Trust you're well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Always. I love this platform. You know, if I'm not able to join, I'll always catch up on YouTube. So yeah, it's very informative for that. So yeah, no thanks, Sean. I think maybe first, maybe the good about the instruction notes, you know, when it was issued, I think, you know, we're excited that finally there's some sort of guidance in terms of how to deal with assignments and sessions, because as you rightfully said, that there has been this use of interchangeable use of the terms assignment and sessions. And I was just glad that at least National Treasury is providing that clarity to institutions to say this is an assignment, and obviously the challenge with the assignment will be the issue that, you know, it goes contrary to Section 217, because the person that ultimately runs the contract is not the one that had bid it. But then on the not so good part was the part around the sessions, where in this case, largely the contractors will then cede their right to a payment to a financier. You know, that's yeah, generally it will be a financier. There would be some instances where the right to a payment is ceded to perhaps somebody providing a particular item. I know in the school ablution projects, that some what's that piece? If there's somebody from the education center can assist, it's EnviroLoo, for instance, you know. So sign a session with EnviroLoo. In certain instances, I used to work for the Department of Health, would get a manufacturer of you know, this high-end equipment that is used by the Department of Health, or generators, because they are high-valued products, and you find that a contractor does not have the money upfront to buy those particular items. So they will sign a session wherein the contractor then cedes the right to a payment to whoever they are getting either funding or this particular item that is critical to them building this infrastructure. But then the challenge, Sean, comes on paragraph 4.2 of that instruction note that is withdrawn, where it says, I'll just go to the middle part of it, where it says, it is, the sessions be limited only to those session agreements in favor of registered FSPs and state institutions established for the express purpose of providing funding to businesses and entities as such state institutions. The issue with that statement, Sean, is that FSPs are registered with the they used to be the Financial Services Board, and now is the Financial Services Conduct Authority, FSCA. And FSCA does not regulate credit. They do not regulate credit providers. The National Credit Regulator regulates credit providers. So maybe somebody who developed the instruction might have had those, FNB ads where they say they're registered FSPs and NCRs, But in this case, the session is ideally for those that are providing credit, and those are regulated by the NCR and not the FSCA. So that statement then becomes wrong to say you must then do a session in favor of somebody who's registered with FSP. For instance, an insurance broker, somebody who's purely in the business of doing selling insurance, will be required to register with the FSCA and be a financial service provider, but will not be required to be registered with the National Credit Regulator. So now this instruction basically says that broker can now go and enter into a session and give somebody credit.
Yeah.
But then the other second part, which also is problematic, is it also brings in issues of anti-competitive practices. Because you'd see on the second part where it says, or state institutions that have been established for providing finance. So you'd have an institution such as CIFA, right? That is state-owned, that provides funding. CIFA is not a financial service provider, so they do not sell other products other than credit, right? So if you do not have to sell life cover or whatever to cover that credit, you do not have to register with the FSCA. So an institution like CIFA will then be registered with the NCR and not the FSP. But then this instruction says, oh no, CIFA can go into a session, but somebody else who is in the business of providing credit but does not sell any other financial products cannot do so, So
right.
we and maybe my interest in that I should have declared upfront is that I'm in that business. We do provide purchase order funding. So we did write to National Treasury in August because they had issued the instruction mid to end of August for implementation on the 1st of September. So right. We did engage with them, and they said they were looking at it. So now with the withdrawal, we're hoping that they will take into account our input, but we also acknowledge that they did not withdraw the MFMA circular. That is a cut and paste of this. So whatever challenges that are there on instruction number 8 are there on circular, I think it's 120 of the MFMA. So that now you have institutions that says, no, for you to have a session to show us your FSP registration, which it's problematic. And also it basically it also downplay the developmental agenda of government, because we know access to funding it's a problem in the country, and people will get purchase orders. Those that are in the space, in the procurement space, know how often would have service providers that are unable to render the service simply because they do not have funding.
Sure.
So yeah, institutions like ourselves are here to play in that space, but then you'd have such instructions that basically make it very, very difficult to work on sessions, because at the end of the day, we still require some sort of security for the funds that we give to contractors. We trust that as colleagues are now, I know most of them are still working on fine-tuning the policies to take care of the regulations 2022, that they also maybe consider having addressing such issues of sessions in their policies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Komoso. And just if you wouldn't mind just sharing, are there many credit providers out there that provide this purchase order funding service similar to yours? I imagine there are.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I think they will also be in the same predicament, because they are not selling insurance, or any other financial services. So it means then they basically get off the market.
Yeah. I think the other definition of financial service provider is there are different institutions that regulate different parts of, I think, Financial Services Board, FSB, FSCA now no longer regulates the banks. I think they regulate the non-banking financial services sector, and there's someone else. So the whole definition, I think, was a little bit unfortunate.
There's the Prudential Authority now that does something, and so the functions have been split between the SCA and the Prudential authorities and so forth. But yeah, the bottom line is that those that provide purely credit are not required to register with the Financial Service Conduct Authority, and therefore are not financial services providers by definition.
Got you, good. And therefore, those opportunities then for service providers that wanted a purchase order funding or purchase order credit service were then denied that opportunity, and possibly weren't able to bid effectively. And I think that's your transformational agenda issue that you raised. Thank you for that. Thank you, Komoso.
Thank you so much.
Good one. So that's one of the issues. There are many issues with this particular instruction. We've raised those before on this platform. The one big issue was that there are times when assignment happens, and there are valid reasons why an assignment might happen, and that could be because there was a merger or an acquisition. And the implications of that for a contract which is underway, maybe it's a 3-year contract, 1 year into the contract, there is a merger or an acquisition or something like that happens, and now they're assigning the rights from the current company to another company, or they want to change the name, and the banking details that was denied then as well. And the assignment requirement, the instruction requirement, was that you would have to cancel that contract, and that has many other implications. Let's have a quick look then at a couple of points. And I don't have all the answers to this one. This is quite messy. So let's just see if we can talk through these 3 things. What if you've changed your SCM policy to comply with Instruction 8? What do you do? I know there are institutions, because there have been many policy changes that have taken place, SCM policy changes that have taken place, and so many have used the opportunity to update their policies to comply with Instruction 8. What if you have changed or included a special condition of contract into your specification to cater for the fact that clause 19 is no longer valid? And then what if you cancelled a contract that was in the process of being assigned or ceded? Somebody requested of you to assign, or they requested that you cede this, and it was possibly a non-FSP organization that they were going to cede it to, and therefore you cancelled because you had no option, you couldn't do it. Or you're in the process of doing that. Let's just see if we can try and get some perspectives on this one. But before I get there, I want to just share with you a comment that was shared by Walter Bengu, and Walter is very well known to this platform. He provided a very good explanation for the whole validity period extension issue a couple of months ago. That video is on the YouTube channel. And let me just briefly quote what he says. Backdating a withdrawal has more legal risks than backdating an applicability of a legal provision. This is because backdating a withdrawal means one must then, in that withdrawal, condone the actions that were perfectly fine during the applicability of the instruction note, which might now not be in line with the new legal reality. The rationale for the backdating needs to be scrutinized. For the audit, one needs to show the paper trail of how the instruction note was implemented until it was withdrawn. And basically, Walter is asking for the instruction that withdraws the instruction, the original instruction. And yeah, basically saying that this is going to be quite messy, because all that we have was a notice of withdrawal. There wasn't an instruction. And if you look at the website, the National Treasury website, the instruction 08 is still there. There's just a statement to say withdrawn instruction 08. So they haven't even updated the instruction. They've just put a withdrawn indicator on the actual instruction 08 on the website. So it still is quite messy. So what if you've changed your SCM policy to comply with the instruction? I think you need to look at this in two ways. One is, if you've had no assignments or no sessions since the 1st of September, then I would frankly just take out the withdrawn clauses from your policy. If you're doing an update, however you can, just take those out, because there are issues with that instruction. And so you probably want to take them out, because they've got these issues. They're not complete, and they have implications. So if you've had nothing, you've had no assignment or no session since the 1st of September, then probably take those out. If you have had an assignment or a session since the 1st of September, you're probably going to need to look at this on a case-by-case basis and really be very careful and cognizant of the dates. There's obviously something that has happened why Treasury have now said that it's withdrawn up to the 27th of October, backdated to the 27th of October. So there's this September and 27 days in October where that was effective, and now from the 27th of October it's no longer effective. So you probably need to look at each of these very, very carefully on a case-by-case basis, and you probably need to get legal assistance. It's going to be very messy. So really look at this very carefully, because if you did potentially cancel a contract during that time because they requested assignment and you took it literally and you said we can no longer assign, therefore we have to cancel the contract, there could be implications now in many ways, and audit is just going to be one of those. If you have included in your specifications the clause to a special condition of contract to fix that clause 19, again, you probably need to get some legal input, and probably also request of National Treasury their perspective as well on those contracts that went out where you have adjusted the GCC with an SCC. There could be implications on that one as well. And if you have cancelled a contract or you were in the process of cancelling a contract, again, you probably need to get some legal input on this. This is not something, this is the contractual issues here. The irregular expenditure issues here can be fairly significant. So you probably need to start to pull legal in to assist you with this, and also get the OCPO to provide you with some direction. As Walter was indicating, there should be an instruction which Treasury issues that would try and explain what happens to those that did during this period decide to implement the instruction and took action against that provision. And so, yeah, please don't hesitate to send in info to or requests for clarity to the OCPO. They obviously are putting together something now for issuing, and they need to know the issues that you have had to deal with. So please don't hesitate to send that through to them. Let's just check if there's any questions, any thoughts that anyone would like to just add to this predicament that we're in at the moment on this assignment and sessions issue. Any thoughts from anyone? Advocate Nsaluba, you're on that group where we've asked for some input from some of the other legal folk, because it's quite unusual to backdate a leave.
Hi, Sean and colleagues.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi.
Thanks, Advocate.
Sean.
Go ahead, we can hear you. Thank you. We can hear you, yes. Advocate, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to hear you properly. Perhaps you could try another device or another connection to join us. Yeah, it's going back and forth. We're not getting you. Okay, let's come back to that if there are any other points to bring out around this one. Komotso, any points from yourself? Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. I think just a simple one, and excuse my ignorance, maybe when Advocate is back on, she could assist with just the differentiation from, Treasury side on the differences between withdrawing and repealing an instruction. Because I think we are used to repealing, and as such, when you go to the website, you will see that this particular instruction has been repealed, and it will appear under the repealed instructions.
Hi, Sean.
Yeah, hi, there we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, and good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Can you hear me, Sean?
We can now hear you. Thank you, much better.
Yes, I saw the comment from the colleague early this morning. It's quite a messy situation, Sean, because people would have. Okay, let's start with the question I keep on asking: the legal standing of these instructions from the Treasury. And we need to trace that from the document that establishes them.
Sure.
The ability for them to have a retrospective effect. That's one. The second one, like you have said, there's an issue that must be answered by. Do I want to say Treasury? No. I want to say state attorney. For one reason, that I keep on saying there is a state function that should assist us in these matters. Because if someone has actually applied an instruction, a legal instruction, and used it, when the terms of that instruction change, that cannot change the fact that the person used a lawful instruction. And it was lawful at the time when the person was implementing it. Now, like I'm saying, the state attorney then needs to be the one that arbitrates here, because you don't want then the AG to come with ultra-virus actions, which were intra-virus at the time. Coming to the issue of the policy, the policy, like you've made proposals, but for me, Sean, all these proposals will talk to the actual weight of the instructions. And I think that should be where we start, and where the advice from Treasury with the state attorney should be assisting us, so that we have direction in terms of all these instructions and how we manage them. Because I see a challenge in terms of not us being challenged, but the system being challenged by the people who would have benefited from the implementation of that particular instruction. So you are very correct in saying the scope here for interpretation of the statutes in terms of the validity of the instructions flowing from the original instrument. Because if the instructions were declared legally, and the retrospective effect should have been visible there, you cannot change the game as you move along. It does not operate like that. So for me, I think there's really an element here where Treasury must assist us, but also state attorney should help us interpret this whole thing and what it means for the future.
Got you. Thank you. And
but from the side then of us being the administrators at our levels, it might be helpful to begin a situation where one does an audit if a person has invoked the instrument, an audit, and makes that visible to the accounting officer, because this matter needs to be elevated at a higher level by the institution that is affected before they get hit by the audits. So that through the accounting officers, this matter is dealt with at DG level, at cluster level. And if condonement must be done, it's not going to be done by the institution, but it must be done by the Treasury, because it is as a result of the instrument that came from the Treasury.
Good point. To address your question on the legal standing of the instrument that was issued by Treasury, there's a statement in the PFMA, and I'm not sure if it's in 16A, that empowers Treasury to issue instructions. And these instructions are issued with that empowerment in mind. And it is considered subordinate law. The instruction is considered subordinate law.
I agree, Sean. But then does the law allow for retrospective application? That is where I am.
That's the issue.
Because even with the regulations, if you actually develop regulations, you then need to be clear about how they are applicable, because this is the applicability of whatever is legal here is being tested, and that is where then it's a nice paper. It's actually a nice concept paper. But then I think we need to have the Treasury at least assisting us. Not that we cannot work on that and we play around with it, but it's important for them, because if they then are the ones presenting, they will be able then to tell us the standing going forward and even the damage control. And I'm looking at the implications, the implications for the organizations and the accounting officers. Remember now, irregularity now has many effects for accounting officers. So it needs to be looked at from the foresight of the impact that is having on the institutions and the standing and the role of the accounting officers. And that is why I'm saying then the Treasury should be requested. They have a legal unit. They should be able then to assist us interpret this instruction and its unintended consequences and how those are going to be managed. But from our side as institutions, we need to do an audit of what has happened and what it is then that we want our accounting officers to push forward in terms of their own position. So it's twofold. It's twofold from the way I see it. But in terms of the policy pronouncements, can you imagine? The policy was just approved in January. You coming now to the same body that approved the policy, you're saying we must extricate this section. Surely, you must have a clear standing on why it must be extricated, and how do you then ensure the sanctity of the processes that you've engaged in the process of developing that policy, which is about making sure that it complies with all requirements. And probably, and lastly, Sean, I do want to say at some point, if it's possible, we might have to invoke the likes of the Institute of Directors. Because remember, all these are not new within the corporate governance space. So that we get a full analysis from the corporate governance perspective of all these. Of course, if they can do that for us pro bono, it will be very helpful. I'm just citing the various areas, Sean, that we need to look at, because we're looking into the future and we're making sure that this incident is used to prevent further occurrences of similar incidents.
Interesting.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's
and let's enjoy swimming in the mess. We will not drown. We will not drown.
Yeah,
we will not drown. Thank you. Thank you.
Good one. Hey, Thandi.
Hi, Sean. Good morning, colleagues. Actually, the chat is off. I don't know why I wanted to put this on the chat. But anyway, is this even legal? You know, we frown upon documents being backdated, because especially in supply chain, a lot of things can be recreated, situations can be recreated and backdated. So my question is this practice even legal?
It's a good question. And right now, if you were to look at the legality of it, this is an announcement. There is no legal instrument that withdraws Instruction 8. So it really is messy, and you know, this was put out almost 3 weeks ago. We hope that there will be some clarity quite soon coming from Treasury.